On the powerlifting platform, I feel invincible. The world slows down, the crowd goes mute, and I am a heat-seeking missile that destroys any loaded barbell on the platform. This superhuman-like state is more addictive than crack rock, but you can't stay in this state all the time without getting injured. The way to avoid injuries is with an off-season powerlifting program, an off-season powerlifting training. And this is not purely a safety mechanism. This is actually going to help you set up your best total on the platform. The purpose of a powerlifting off-season is to set you up for a great training cycle to peak into the meet. So I actually brought some notes today on what the purpose of a powerlifting off-season is. And remember, this is not sacrificing strength. This is setting you up for a huge total. So the duration of a powerlifting off-season can be anywhere from 4 to 12 weeks, sometimes even longer. So what do we want to accomplish? The first thing is muscle hypertrophy. So I'm not saying you're gonna oil up, get on the bodybuilding stage, a Chippendale stage, or whatever stage where life is your competitive stage, or what the hell you're doing. Just get you ready, okay? So anyways, keep this in mind. You are not married to your current weight class. It's not a forever commitment. You're going to be the best where you carry the most muscle mass while minimizing body fat. What is the easiest way to increase strength potential? The easiest way is by adding muscle mass. That's why you can see bodybuilders that have not been into powerlifting take up powerlifting and do really well fairly quickly. Think of like Stan Efferding, Johnny Jackson. We could go. The list goes. What if Ronnie Coleman would have gone for a big total in his prime? I bet there could have been some world records set. Okay, so keep that in mind. How are we going to increase muscle hypertrophy? This is going to be done with an increase in training volume. Okay, so for a technically sound lifter, this may mean taking a break from the big three. So instead of like a conventional deadlift, you may do a trap bar or sumo deadlift. A regular low bar squat could become an Olympic high bar squat, that kind of thing. And for a lifter that's not as technically sound, this is a great chance to increase training volume in the core lift. So for instance, we might go, instead of just heavy doubles, singles, triples, you might do 10 sets of 5 reps, a 2-minute break, and working up to 70% of your max. Just think about, how much your work capacity is going to increase. Think about how much good quality training volume you get in. The way to get to Carnegie Hall is practice, practice, practice. So if you're not technically sound, this would be a great chance without real heavy weight to get better. Okay, so the bottom line is a larger muscle has a greater capacity to increase strength, to lift more weight on the platform. Neural efficiency, the name of the game in strength, right? So you can say, how fast how many muscle fibers recruit, blah, blah, blah. But remember, powerlifting was, in its genesis, formed as a rebuttal to the more technical Olympic lifts. So with that in mind, you got to keep, you want to get good technique, but these lifts are not nearly as complex as the Olympic lifts. Okay, so the equation of brute strength is huge, and a huge variable in that equation is muscle mass. So some guidelines with the muscle hypertrophy is you can keep the rest intervals shorter, you can increase your repetitions in training, work weak points, and work areas neglected in meet points. Exercise variation, this is huge in the off season. So variation and specificity have a give and take relationship. The greater the variation, the less the specificity, and vice versa. So, just changing your grip a couple inches can have a huge training effect, okay? I bench with my, bench presses, X amount wide, bring it in 3 inches, different training effects. I squat really wide, I'm doing Olympic pause squat, big training effects. So that alone can be, so some of my favorite variations of lifts in the off season for squats are Olympic pause squats, front squats, Hatfield overload squats, safety squats, belt squats, cambered bar squats. On the bench press, close grip bench presses, wide grip bench presses, neutral grip bench presses with a barbell, like a football Swiss bar. Trap bar deadlifts, deficit deadlifts, and opposite stance deadlifts, hence sumo, conventional, sumo. Okay, so this is a great time to work in strongman training. So as Kaz said, A strong back equals a very strong man. One of the best ways to develop back strength, core strength, grip strength, a strong posterior chain, powerful hip extensors, and just work capacity is with strongman training. We can do we can sit there and do a plank and listen to Frank Sinatra for 2 hours, or you can do a heavy loaded front yoke and keep on going, dude. That's a plank on steroids with a dynamic element added. Okay, farmer's walk. You're gonna work your grip and everything from your toenail up to your top. I shouldn't point it there, to the top of your head. Okay, so we can do all these different strongman events that are gonna raise your work capacity, work all these different areas you normally neglect. And then there's bodybuilding movements. Okay, if you do the same movements over and over, so you hear people do, all I do is bench squat and deadlift, bench squat and deadlift, bench squat and deadlift. Okay, well, it might be a cute meme, it could be a good hashtag or whatever other type of purposes serve you. Think about it. If you do the same thing over and over, you're neglecting certain areas. So if you have those weaknesses, they're gonna eventually have compensatory movement patterns. The way you can correct that is with bodybuilding type of isolation movement. So there's a time and a place for everything, okay? Plus, this time with exercise variation is gonna be mentally refreshing, and it's a great chance, again, to eliminate weak points, So now think about, again, let's talk a little bit more work capacity. Okay, so with this, while you're improving your work capacity, your central nervous system gets a break from lifting heavy weights all the time. And this foundational work allows for proper peaking. Think about a training cycle. If you're getting ready for a meet, we go from more general to more specific, from higher volume to lower volume if you're doing it in a linear fashion like that. Okay, so so when you have that great work capacity, you're in a great initial phase. So if you start off your meet prep with a higher volume phase and you don't have the work capacity to handle it, what are you gonna do? You're not gonna thrive. You're just trying to survive to get to the next workout. We want you to thrive, and you're gonna thrive by having a greater work capacity you develop in the off season. Furthermore, this great work capacity allows you to taper properly into the week because you have that residual volume base built up. So when you got to back off going into a meet, you're going to be able to get away with it, or not get away with it. You're going to get away and thrive with it. Okay, so a meet has a pre-planned date, so there is no excuse not to do an off season. You're not on like some bar fighting, tough man circuit tour where if you win the fight in San Antonio, you got one in Midland, then you're off to Kansas City and you don't know when the dates are or whatever. We know the dates ahead of time. So this is a very easy, if we're in a few meets a year, to plan in this off season. So off seasons are tailor made to hit weak points. So like for instance, your quads are weak, you front squats, hat foot overload squats, backwards sled drags, leg presses. For chest, you could do chain flies, dumbbell press variations, cable work, wide grip benches, whatever you're gonna do, shoulders, all sorts of raises, overhead variations, cable work, upper back, any chest supported back movement. I say chest supported because think about it, if you do bent over rows, many times when you do them frequently, the lower back becomes variation. So as long as pull-ups, all that kind of stuff, lat pull downs, triceps, you got close grips, dips, various extensions, various push downs, biceps, hammer curls, incline curls. Even try Geronda perfect curls if you want sometime. Bet you've never even tried those before. Your posterior chain, you got deadlift hypers, Romanian deadlift, grip. We have, deadlift specific holds, overhand deadlifts, farmer's walks. The list goes on, and we can include all sorts of specific strategies to target weaknesses, but I just want to give you an overview of what the powerlifting off season is. So if you want to turn it on the platform, you need to have the proper powerlifting off season.